guys, I'm Bella, the Maker Mama boss lady behind Fiber and Fox, and this is typically my channel, this is actually my channel, where I usually do a podcast. I'm a crochet designer, I also knit, I talk about it here with you, and there's some natural dyeing and some vlogging and some other things that I get up to here as well. But anytime I release a new pattern, being a crochet designer, I like to do what I call a pattern drop. And I'm gonna give you the disclaimer up front, because people be angry in the comment section, let me just tell you. This is not a tutorial. So pattern drops, a little unique to, I think, just me. Haven't seen a lot of other videos like this, but anytime I release a new pattern, I like to put out an informational video that's gonna give you all sorts of inspiration behind the pattern, inspiration for you, yarns that you're gonna need, anything that's included with the pattern, anything that you're gonna wanna know about the pattern. I'm gonna share tester photos and all sorts of stuff like that with you. So we're just gonna kind of walk through my latest design, what you might want to know about it. I'm gonna hopefully inspire you to make one. And if you're here for that sort of thing, thanks for being here, I appreciate it. And if you're here for the regular content or looking for tutorials, thanks for coming, and we'll catch you next time, I guess. But I am so excited to share the Scarfie Shawl with you. As you can see, it comes in all sorts of iterations. And this one is super exciting because not only is it my first pattern of 2024, but it is basically any yarn, basically any size, basically no yarn chicken guaranteed, and I can almost basically guarantee that you won't just make one. So let's talk some details about the Scarfie Shawl. Inspiration-wise, as a crochet designer, if you've been here for any length of time, you probably know this about me and my patterns, but I really like to try to elevate, or not even elevate, because it's already there, change people's perception of crochet to be on level with knitting. Because I feel like a lot of times crochet is like, oh, that's for the acrylic yarn. Oh, that's for the people who shop at the box stores. Oh, that's for Afghans. Oh, it's not drapey. You can't make a good garment with that. You can't go to the fancy yarn store and get the good yarn to crochet. Or that's where you start out, and then you learn how to knit and you get good. That's kind of the perception crochet has a lot of times, and that's frustrating to me because while they are two very different art forms, all the yarn is for everyone, and I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. There's some things I would rather crochet, some things I'd rather knit, but I think that they are still both worthy of the beautiful yarn and the, whoa, you made that, like, reaction, not, oh, she made that, like, you know what I'm trying to say? So with my designs, I love to do things that are surprisingly crocheted, that you're like, oh wait, that's crochet? That's kind of my thing. Sometimes I throw around the hashtag knit knockoff or make knitters jealous, because I just think crochet is worth it. And I love it. So something that I've seen a lot in the knit community is everyone be making these little scarves. Everyone is into tiny little scarves that I feel like you put on to go to a fancy French coffee shop and order yourself a latte with a beautiful leaf on top and some sort of croissant. Can't say that, sorry. I'm wearing my Frenchest looking outfit, which is probably completely incorrect, but the stripes and the scarf, that's kind of just what it makes me think of. Something very fashion, very European, very, I wear big sunglasses and I walk to the coffee shop and I sip my latte. I don't actually do any of that, but that's kind of my idea behind this scarf and its applications. Of course, you could wear it however you want, but it seems like a lot of people are into knitting these little tiny scarflets, shawlets, bigger ones, shorter ones, headbands, little one ties, little like Boy Scout kerchief kind of things. There's been a lot of that in the knit world. And I haven't seen it as much in crochet. So what I wanted to do was create something of a similar knit-like quality. And I'm gonna show you that the fabric that I've created here, I have a bunch of different samples you can see going on here, that I've made this in basically any yarn that you have in your stash. It's a great stash buster. It's a great, I have one skein, I don't know what to do with it kind of thing. But I was really going for a knit-like quality. So let me show you up close, and I will say this is the fingering weight one. It is by far the drapiest and the thinnest, obviously, because it's fingering weight. I'm wearing the DK weight. There is a fingering weight headband over there, and that is the bulky weight version on my girl Bolin, because she got no head. And you could basically make this in any fiber that you wanted, but this is a fingering weight. I think it's 100% merino. This is a fiber for the people yarn. But this yarn is less about what yarns I used and what yarns you want to use. It's more about that. I created what I feel like is a eyelet-like, if you're familiar with knitting, little holes, eyelet lace type look mixed with what looks kind of like a garter. Everyone in knitting loves like a squishy garter bump. So this is a combo between like a ribbing and a garter stitch, but it's all crochet. So the inspiration there was to just kind of have a knit-like feel and that elevated fashion, look at my fancy, not necessarily for warmth, but for fashion, scarf. It could definitely be for warmth as well. That bulky one's cozy. But it's going to depend very much on the fiber you use and the size that you make and all of that. But that was the inspiration, kind of just making I can use any yarn, customize it to whatever hook size I want to match with that yarn, and make something of fashion. So let me tell you about the yarns that I used and some yarns that testers may have used and some suggestions for selecting yarn for your Scarfie Shawl project. As I already mentioned, this is written in such a way that you can pick pretty much any yarn from your stash, maybe not the giant roving that people were making those like arm knit blankets out of, and maybe not like a lace. You could play around with lace weight if you wanted to, but within the pattern is included a gauge for fingering or sport weight yarn, DK or worsted weight, and then a bulky weight. And I do include the gauges in there and the recommended hook size and all of that. But this pattern, more so than any of my other patterns, gauge is not so important. This is not a fitted sweater. We're not trying to get a really tailored look or anything. Usually I'm all about you need to do your gauge swatch. You need to block it. You need to treat it the same way that you're going to treat your finished fabric, your finished garment, whatever. This pattern, I'm giving you a little leeway. It's all included in there, and I do recommend swatching just so you know that you're kind of close, but if you're not getting exact stitch or row gauge, you're probably gonna be okay on this one. What's really important about this pattern is having some sort of a scale. This is the one that I have, and I have it linked in the pattern as well, if you're interested in getting this particular one, but it's nothing super special. It is a kitchen scale. You could also use a postal scale, but kitchen scales tend to be a little bit more precise because you're measuring flour in lighter things than packages. But basically it measures in grams and a whole bunch of other things, and you put your yarn on it. If you're not familiar, I have a whole blog post on weighing yarn for projects that I can link as well. And I think that's also linked in the pattern. But the scale is really important because it's how you're going to determine how you're not going to play yarn chicken. So at the beginning of your project, I highly recommend whatever yarn you're using, whatever you've gone through your stash, and you could combine yarns, you can do half and half, you can do stripes, whatever you want to do. It's written in a solid color. But you're going to want to weigh your total yarn before you start. And you can't say, yes, Bella, I know I have 100 grams. It says so right here on my label. The ball bands lie. Very rarely is it less than 100 grams or 50 grams or whatever it says on there. Very rarely is it less because then you'd be getting a bad deal. So very often you're getting more yarn than 100 grams. So I think this one was actually well over 110 grams of yarn. So you're going to want to weigh where you're at the beginning, how much yarn you have to work with. The fingering weight version, I used 100 grams. The DK weight version, I used 100 grams. In the bulky weight, I actually used 2 worsted weights held together to create a bulky weight in a discontinued yarn. So mine is a little longer than what you might get in the pattern if you took a bulky skein off the shelf, just yardage-wise, because I was combining 2 worsteds. But ultimately, the final measurements, they're given in the pattern. The largest one comes out to about 100 inches long in a fingering weight gauge. But you can basically make it any size that you would like. So you're gonna weigh at the beginning and you're gonna determine, okay, so if I'm working with 110 grams, you're roughly, 55 grams would be about a halfway point. You're gonna wanna give yourself a little bit of a buffer just in case your tension changes up so you're not playing yarn chicken at the end, because this shawl is worked from end to end. So you start out here at this tiny little end, and then you're gonna increase up until you get to whatever you've deemed to be your halfway point. So whatever based on your yardage or your weight that you've decided is halfway. So if you're working with 100 gram skein and you say 50 grams is halfway, you're probably gonna wanna stop around the 45 to 48 grams just to be safe. Just so you have a little extra wiggle room so you don't have to end up frogging back. So a little bit less than halfway is where you're gonna stop on your weight. So you're gonna keep weighing as you're going. Stop when you get to a little bit less than halfway, and then you're gonna begin the decreases and go down the other side. And the pattern gets very repetitive. Once you get past about here, it's the same increases throughout. So you just keep going, you don't need to count stitches. I mean, you need to make sure you have the right amount for the pattern to work, but you're increasing. You get to the middle, and then you immediately begin decreasing, 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 and it's all fun and games and not paying attention until you get to about here to finish off the little point at the end. So the gauge, like I said, is not like super crucial. As long as you're confident in the amount of yarn that you have, you're gonna be able to get to about halfway and then make it whatever size. And if you don't want it to be 100 inches, you could say, okay, I'm only gonna use 50 grams, or oh, I have a random 76 grams left in my stash from when I made some color work or something. You can use any quantity that you want, just mark it about halfway and then decrease. So it's really fun to mess around with. A lot of us have like those special skeins for maybe a yarn festival or left over from another project, or even scraps. Something that I've seen a lot more recently, and I've used in one of my other designs, the dandelion disperse shawl, and I want to make a version in this Scarfie shawl, is where halfway you change colors. So the first half is one color and the second half is another color, and I think that would be really fun to do in either two solids or maybe a solid and a variegated. We could even go fingering weight and like mohair on one half. Hold on. I don't know. We could do exciting things there. So I do want to make a half and half version. But as far as even yarn content, this one is merino nylon. This one's 100% merino. This one's an alpaca merino something something blend that was discontinued. This one's a mini skein. But I do want to work up another sample in a more natural fiber. This is like a DK weight cotton linen something something. So really, for whatever your usage, you can pick your yarn. So if you're wanting a really big chunky scarf, go for a bulky weight. And you could make that single tie. It doesn't have to go around you 3 times. That one's actually for my daughter and it's very large and she's using it in a traditional scarf sense. But this, you can really get to whatever halfway point either in yarn usage, or this is how long I want it to be. We're halfway there and then start decreasing. So if you wanted just a single tie little kerchief, you could do that. Another option in the pattern is for my daughter. I made, this is not gonna quite fit on my head and it looks terrible on me, which is why there's no model photos of me in a headband, but I'll put in some tester photos later. You can also make a headband and you can wear it this way crossed. Hang on, let's pretend. We could wear it this way across our head, or we can wear it this way with a little bow. You could even make like a little end of hair tie if you wanna like have a long braid with a little sophisticated tie. You could really make this any size that you want. And the headband kerchief option is great for mini skeins because I used about 12 grams for my daughter, and with 20 grams you could definitely get an adult size one, or like a single tie little round neck scarf situation. So yeah, like I normally recommend some yarn to you, but you can literally just go pick anything off your shelf. Kind of go off of the hook size that's given in the pattern. You don't have that exact hook size, you'll probably be fine, get close. This is the only pattern so far of my collection that I'm going to tell you to do that. Just really make sure that you get some sort of a scale, because that's the no yarn chicken guarantee right there. So that's what you need to know about the yarn. I usually like to also tell you what's going to be included in the pattern. This one is pretty straightforward. It doesn't have a lot of complicated tutorials or videos or weird techniques. It's you start skinny, increase, decrease, done. So their stitches aren't anything super complicated. I'm not going to tell you what they are right here because it's a paid pattern, but it's nothing super wild. This eyelet-like stitch is one that I've used in my patterns before, in my Grainbow shawl and my dandelion dance shawl as well. I think it makes a really pretty, kind of fancy looking eyelet texture. The camera has a hard time with the red. Maybe I'll show you in the blue. I showed you before, but we can show you again. This is a twistier plied yarn. But it makes a really pretty little archway eyelet thing. And then the pretty little, come on, ribbed garter-like bumps in between. So there's nothing hard. We've labeled it as advanced beginner just because I feel like beginner is something you can walk into any craft store, grab the first hook you've ever bought, and then make. So it's a little more beyond that, but it's not complicated. Very easy if you've crocheted like single crochet before. I think you'll be pretty good with this. Basic decreases, nothing tricky. So the pattern is fully written. There are some photos in there. There is lots of info, like I said, on the different yarns and getting a scale. There's a whole page of pattern notes on how to properly manage your yarn and some different ideas. There is obviously on Ravelry, there's going to be the project page section. All my testers have put up project pages if you want to check out more details there, and I'll link them in my blog post as well. So check out maybe what yarns they used, but like we've already covered extensively, you can use whatever yarn you want. but I have provided the gauge and the hook sizes and all of that in there and measurements of mine. But it's very, very customizable. And I have photos of all the different versions, and it's really nothing tricky in there. So some of my patterns do have private like tutorial videos and whatnot. This one, I don't think you're gonna need it, but I'm always here for support. And yeah, I can't say you're definitely gonna make more than one, but I feel like included in the pattern is a guarantee that you're gonna wanna make more than one. And even my tester group, I was like, nobody has to make more than one, like testing is so generous already, but if you want to, I won't be mad. And several of them have made multiple versions. And as you can see, I've made 4 and have a stack of yarn for another one, and I'm not anywhere near done. So it's really fun to play around with different seasons, different color combos, all of that. This one, I feel like it's just gonna be one of those, you buy it once and make it on repeat for all your aunts and your cousins and for your spring and for your winter and for your kid and for your headband. And it's very versatile. So for the one pattern, I am excited to be able to offer all of those gauge and weight options, because you're getting, essentially you're getting a headband, a kerchief, a scarf, a really bulky scarf, a really like accessory kind of scarf. There's a lot in there. So have fun customizing, and I can't wait to see your versions. I always like to share a couple tester photos with you from my great tester group. And if you jump down below the video, there is a blog post as well. And I should say that's where you're gonna find the pattern links and all of that as well. And my Instagram and blog and shop and all of that, Scarfie Shawl, is down below. You can find it there. But tester photos. I love seeing my patterns come to life in the hands of testers, and especially one like this where I was like, pick your yarn, go wild. People picked really beautiful hand dyes and beautiful different fibers, and obviously the different sizes of the different items in the finished objects. So it's really fun watching all of that, and I'm so excited, like I said, to see your versions start popping up in my feed and on Ravelry. If you want to share those with me, I would love it if you would use the tag Scarfie Shawl, and you can always use Fiber and Fox makes as well. And recently Instagram got weird. I don't know if they've changed it back, but apparently using the hashtag is not enough to get the algorithm's attention, which if someone's like, I follow my own hashtag, so Scarfie Shawl, I'm gonna be following that. But apparently there's no guarantee that I will see you using the hashtag. That's just rude, Instagram. Like, you've taken enough from us already. Come on, don't mess with the hashtags. But if you wanna be sure that I see your post, and I very often share them as well, you should tag me. I'm fiber.and.fox on Instagram. But either way, even if you don't share at all, I'm excited for you to make this. I'm gonna put in a little tester montage for you now. So please enjoy the beautiful versions in the different sizes and yarns and weights and all of that that my testers used. Who very frequently makes videos, and I always edit my videos, and there's cuts in between like scenes or topics or whatever, there's a cut. So I was like, here's the montage, and then I sat here for like 30 seconds as if the montage was playing and you needed me to be silent for you to enjoy it. No, I'm just gonna cut that chunk. I'm gonna put up the montage. The me being silent part did not matter or count, but I did that. It's been a while since I've done a pattern drop. I don't know if you can tell, but I get really giddy about pattern releases. There's a lot of just like, I don't know, there's a lot of work that goes into a pattern, designing a pattern, even something just like a scarf. There's a lot of time and energy and effort and building up to that. I'm like, okay, and all the like making the listings and all of that stuff. It's a lot to launch it all at the same time and get it out into the world, to birth that pattern out to you people. So I tend to talk fast and get really excited. You can slow down the video if you ever need to. I know I talk kind of fast anyway, but I'm just really excited about this one. I cannot wait for you to have it. And like I said, everything is linked below. The Scarfie Shawl is available now, and I am just so excited to see these popping up in spring colors and beyond all the time. All the Scarfie Shawls. I feel so fancy and sophisticated in fashion when I put on this silly little scarf that I don't necessarily need to keep me warm, but I look cool in it, and I want you to look cool in it too. So go make some Scarfie Shawls, tag me, and please enjoy. And I will catch you guys next time for the regularly scheduled podcast and whatnot. Thank you for joining me for this pattern drop and for all the love that you will show the Scarfie Shawl in the future. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your support, even in just watching the video. You guys are great. Like, subscribe, all the things. You know how it goes. I'll catch you next time.